This was a super cool example of how platoon tactics are naturally happening, right? A lot of these players are pub players, first time playing today or yesterday. We end up seeing a natural platoon attack form, right? And this is where all the money of the game is, right? This is the meat and potatoes. This is what we're all chasing, right? So we have first contact hit, and you can see like elements start getting fixed into place, right? And we start this is a good amount of dispersion here. It's a little loose for sure. But even being in buildings can be deceiving, right? Because you might think, oh, we're in cover, we're in a building, but guess what? You're all stacked in close together. It is easy for multiple areas to fix this element. So this insurgent element is now fixed within the town. They cannot move, right? And so this team is doing a good job. They understand their task in the current engagement, right? Which is we are just engaging. We're not pushing and engaging. We're just engagement. And that's something that I think experienced squad leaders in this game will know is like, it's very simple. Your squad should not be juggling 50 tasks all at once. You should be doing one thing. You as a squad are suppressing. Another squad is assaulting. Another squad is supporting that assault, right? It should not be, okay, we're going to suppress and we're going to assault. We're going to fall back and we do all this stuff. Just keep it simple. Keep it super simple. Gives you control. And the control is what lets you outmaneuver or outplay the enemy here, right? So we're just going to fast forward here. We can see both elements trading fire in this gunfight. And so what we see here is we start seeing Op4 at the platoon level, right? Instead of jamming everything into the fight, right? Op4 is making a good call here to send out elements that are still nearby but on another task to flank, right? And so keeping it super simple, it does not need to be that complicated. The whole picture altogether might seem complicated, but each individual squad's tasks, and when you're leading these guys, the tasks should be simple. Shoot here, move here, do this single thing. Don't overcomplicate it. When you overcomplicate it, we'll see an example of overcomplication. It will get negative, right? So play it slow, take your time. So here we see the same thing from blue, right? So this is a good example here too, where we see not all the elements jamming into on top of the same area, but we have one squad spread out here, one squad spread out here. We have a gun team coming up on the rear, right? And this continues to evolve to the point where we naturally have, whoa, crazy. This is a public match. There's a platoon attack going on in a public match. What? I'm sorry. This was crazy to watch. This is super cool. But we essentially have a near textbook platoon attack where we have the base of fire established organically. They're engaging and fixing this element. And we have the assault element coming in perpendicular to the base of fire, right? We can talk about platoon attacks and squad attacks very briefly. The basics of it is you have one element that suppresses and fixes, and then you have another element that comes in to sweep through. Typically speaking, we are always going to want to sweep through perpendicular whenever possible, or as perpendicular as possible. The reason for this is because if they're on a building, we can engage this side, right? And then we can also engage these two sides coming through. And then also what this does is it deconflicts, right? Because now this element can shift their fire away. We're getting a little complicated in the weeds, but the basics of it is we want to come in perpendicular at a 90 degree whenever possible, because we can engage as much parts of the cover of the enemy where they're standing. We can deconflict better, and we can avoid friendly fire, right? Versus if we have enemies here in this box and we go to flank and we're coming in like this is a nightmare, right? This element cannot see the friendly element. There are rounds penetrating through the wall. There's no good way to shift, and both elements are firing into each other. You can do frontal assaults. Frontal assaults are a little bit trickier, a little bit dangerous, because you don't have as much coverage, obviously, from a 90 degree angle coming in. So whenever possible, we want a 90 degree. Luckily here, wow, look at that. Right angle, 90 degree assault coming in here, right? That's super crazy. The one thing we need to adjust and pay attention to, right? The one thing we need to adjust and pay attention to is left flank security. Okay, or supporting flank security. This is where you need to be aware that this is not an isolated element. You do not know the entire picture of the engagement, and you have to be prepared for a flank. Holding 360 degrees security or flank security is critical. It is critical. In a lot of games, it's boring because nothing ever comes on the flank. In Bellum, you are guaranteed to have something try to flank you, right? Because that is 99% of the time how assaults are made. Because the machine guns are super lethal, and everything is as lethal as it is intended to be from a realism standpoint. So typically speaking, the main way that people die in this game is from the flank. So this means if you're holding security in a 360 degree manner, right, you will eventually see someone. I guarantee you. Unlike in other games where like everyone's always charging through the front and it's always a front-on engagement or 1 and 2s dropping here and there as you're shooting through the map, you will have a squad or a fire team come up on the flank. I guarantee you. I guarantee it. So in this particular situation, what is the issue? The issue is we have 2 flanks exposed, right? We have the right flank of the assault exposed. We have the left flank of the base of fire exposed, right? Now, with a 3-squad platoon currently, it can get kind of stretched thin here as far as how do we support these. But typically speaking, you're always going to have 1 squad that's suppressing, 1 squad that's attacking, and then you have a squad on flex, usually, right? Or in reserve. Now, you can do a lot of things with this squad, but this kind of, once again, we're talking about trying to set a standard here of gameplay or of strategy. This 3rd squad that is not assaulting or is not base of fire should understand that their role is to support. Now, depending on the terrain available in front of you, depending on the contact reports that are coming in, you will make the decision of what is the best way for this 3rd squad in reserve to be used, right? Are we going to follow and support this element? Are we going to follow and assume? These are advanced terminology you can look up in the field manual. But basically, follow and support means that you're following, right? Very simple, this element and supporting them as they move. Follow and assume. Assume means that you assume the task of the element should they be incapable of completing that task. So let's say you have this element follow and assuming the assault element. If the assault element gets mass-cowed, the follow and assume element will take the assault in, right? So that's another way you can support. And I know this terminology might seem kind of wacky right now, but keep in mind, like, I've seen gamers learn all kinds of terminology because of the meta or like callouts for certain maps, right? This is all just communication stuff that you'll learn with time and become standardized throughout play. But follow and assume, follow and support. You can stay in reserve and just wait to be called out for like, hey, this is, because it will happen. Hey, this is 1-1, we're mass cal on the assault. Hey, this is 1-2, we're mass cal on the base of fire, right? It will happen. The game revolves around elements killing each other. You are guaranteed to hit contact. Someone is going to hit contact and take casualties. The 3rd thing you can do is hold flank security or rear security, right? And so in this particular situation, I think we have 2 squads here, if I'm remembering correctly here, on the base of fire, right? Which is kind of a little overkill, and we don't have any left security, and we don't have any right security, right? So just we're keeping that in mind as we're moving. We also see a gun team moving up here. Super cool use from the gun team, guys. Super cool stuff. And we can see this assault start to happen organically. So we see the Rangers on the right with the assaulting squad start pushing up. But here's the problem, right? This whole base of fire has no flank security, no rear security. I guarantee you, especially when you play against Al Zalam, you are going to get flanked, right? That is how that faction is built. They do not do well in straight up engagements. Like right now, right? This element is getting absolutely bullied by the multiple machine guns from the Rangers here. Like this is the balancing, the asymmetrical balancing. This insurgent element cannot hold their own head to head with a Ranger element, but they use their mobility to the best of their capabilities, right? So we have no left flank security, and guess what? The left flank ends up getting hit. All these guys are facing the front, and now this little gap in security, this ends up turning into a nightmare for the platoon as the round progresses. So good and bad things happening, but you can see like the platoons kind of rotated around each other. As you get better as a leader, you'll be able to orient yourself to the terrain or look at the map and analyze like, okay, if we get flanked, it's going to be from the left because there's tree lines that come up here and the right side is completely in the open, right? You're going to recognize these tactical decisions as you start playing, or these routes or avenues as you continue playing. So this left flank security ends up getting, or this left flank element ends up getting schwacked, and this ends up becoming a Moscow. There is no element that's ready to flex, and we can see this start to spiral a little bit. However, the right flank, the Rangers, is starting to do some work here. You can see that they're beginning their assault in. And in addition to that, we see a 240. Super cool. This is a 240 gun team right now, shredding the buildings here. So it's a little messy with the shift fires here. Because again, I know we need binoculars or whatever so we can identify better at distance. But some pretty good suppression here from the element. And this is why, you know, you hear the term shift fire a lot from milsim gamers when they're playing this. What it means is literally everyone that's shooting here needs to shift their fire left, because you do not want to friendly fire the squad coming in to assault. Anyways, the squad comes into assault because of the suppression. This element is fixed and distracted to the front. And these guys do a very, very good job of clearing through these buildings, right? We can see this element on the right flank here doing a great job pushing through, right?
It was nowhere near him.
Right, and they're just clearing through, and they go building to building, and you can even see here their separation, right? One has separated one fire team here and another fire team here, because in the case, right, if all of this fire team, if all of this squad was in one building and one MG starts opening up on the building, they are stuck in the building. But because they have maintained separation here, they have the ability to flex this element back or to a different position to support, or whatever the case may be. So keeping fire teams separate and squads separated, but mutually supporting, is a very delicate skill. You'll learn how far you need to be, how close you need to be in order to min-max your effectiveness, right? But we're going to watch this left flank here just turn into an absolute nightmare. So as you can see, casualties start to mount on this rock, right? Like it starts getting super, super rough here. There's probably down, one guy trying to get this guy up and another squad coming in, right? So you are going to have to make hard calls sometimes as far as like, am I going to lose more guys doing this thing? Because if the answer is yes, and this is like super exposed, then sometimes you just have to cut your losses and recognize, like, for the better of the people that are in my squad and their lives, right, we need to break contact and hit this from a different angle, right? Or at least maybe separate from these casualties with this squad coming in to another supporting position further away instead of jamming it into the rock, right? And now, once again, still being suppressed by one or two guys on this rock repeatedly. Yeah, this terrain was just super rough, but like, yeah, this rock, this ended up bleeding a whole bunch of tickets for the Rangers, just because like Mascal here, and you keep trying to save the Mascal, you keep trying to save the Mascal, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And you drop security, and then you have insurgents running through the line, right? Finish the fight first. Dead bodies attract dead bodies, right? Otherwise, this 1-1 element ends up flying through and clearing out the structures. That's pretty much that. But yeah, this is like how many minutes of an absolute cluster is this, right? Like they're still working it, they're still working it, they're still working it. It's still chaos. They're still working it, still working it, still working it. Right? They kind of get up there. But yeah, it's just sometimes you have to recognize when you have to finish the fight first, or displace or support from a different position instead of just jamming straight into the casualties. Sometimes you will, right? And that's another skill thing of like understanding, when do I jam, right? When do we jam, and when do we not? So we have two Ranger squads hanging out together, right? And this is good. This is good. We like to see this. Right, we like to see these two Ranger squads are together, but the third Ranger squad is nowhere close to the platoon, and this proves a problem, right? Because if the enemy platoon is working better cohesively, and your team is not, or not mutually supporting each other, it ends up, we're gonna see exactly how that plays out at the meta level, as far as gameplay is concerned. So two squads here, we can see at least one insurgent squad here, at least a second insurgent squad here, right? Rangers are holding position in a low ground surrounded by high ground in three directions. We have high ground to the front, high ground to the right, and high ground to the southwest. But we are kind of all supported, but look at the separation here, right? We're jammed in on top of each other. We're all jammed in on top of each other. And this is going to be another example of why jamming this close with multiple elements is bad. Not only does it get hard to control, not only does it get super confusing, but the second contact hits, you are clapped. You are screwed. So as we can see, we have good separation here, right? And Al Zalam is going to play like this because they don't want to play all jammed up and hit you from the front. They're going to want to exploit every side that they can. We can even see from the fire team level, fire team split here, fire team split here, fire team split here, fire team split here. Good separation from Op 4, Red 4, right? Blue 4, Death Blob, Tactical Blob. Confusing, bad, right? So we start to see a little separation as 1-4 gets their gun teams kind of kicked out a little bit. And we do have good 360 security, right? So once again, I talk about 360 security. There's no like real front forward facing line in counterinsurgency operations, right? So the second you enter the AO, the second you enter the center of the circle, you need to be looking in all directions because they could be around you based off of how early they start on the map, right? And you can start seeing already no contact is even hit. They're just already all around the blue 4 element. So flank security here is looking to the rear, and they manage to catch Grizzly at the back. And they also catch this squad or this fire team on the flank, right? But once again, you can see blue is stacked very heavily on top of each other. It's super easy to pin all these guys down. And this 1 4-man element with 1 RPD or like a couple AKs spraying the wood lines here fixes the entire element, right? And so you can see this entire element slows down because they all think they're being engaged. But Al-Zalam, right, makes a good tactical call and immediately runs out of the area here because they know they're overmatched, right? They recognize, oh god, the entire platoon is here, and instead of death running to the front, they analyze the terrain, break contact, and start looking for a second route, right? So super good play here, but we still have separation, right? And this separation, you can see how a small element can make themselves feel massive. Okay, so now we get closer on and further in. Now we have a fire team from Al-Zalam engaging on the left flank, right? And now this element is pinched from the front, left, and right flanks, with this right flank maneuvering to engage from the rear. And there's no way, because they're all stacked on top of each other, it's going to be incredibly hard to organize bounds. It's going to be very easy to produce casualties, right? Because it's saturated. It's oversaturated. In addition to the terrain decision to utilize a low ground gully here, surrounded by high ground in all 3 directions. So everything you do matters, right? The way you walk into the center of the circle, with where the elements are, with what terrain you're using, it's all going to build into a final consequence that occurs on that first contact. So blue is now completely swamped. And now I zoom out a little more. Because again, these are all public players, right? We now have another Al-Zalam element coming in from another flank, right? So this is, you have to hold, like, if you're going to do a death ball like this, you have to be set up in a position where the terrain allows for complete security in all directions, and everyone, or at least you have tasked out as many squads as possible to maintain certain sectors for defense. And that is hard to coordinate in a public setting, and that's why we don't necessarily at this stage recommend death ball jamming, is because that level of coordination to quickly amongst random players sort out sectors and just maintain cohesion as a single blob is very difficult. Like, once people get more experienced, or like if we see organized play, like this is a thing that can be done and probably will be done. But for public play, just avoid the death ball. The death ball is bad. Death ball is very, very bad. As you can see here, this team is now, they're completely surrounded, completely cut off, caught in the low ground. And also the third blue 4 squad is out here to the side. The other Op 4 squad is out here as well. This is just 2 squads on 2 squads right here, but you can see how that mobility and terrain advantage that the insurgents have really is powerful, right? Like, even though they only get 1 more life, they don't have body armor, etc., that terrain advantage and mobility advantage really offers them a lot of flexibility when it comes to how blue 4 enters the zone. So we see blue 4 attempt to break out, right? Blue 4 attempts to break out, but because this element on the right flank was so fast with it, right, and they started moving immediately, they have essentially cut off the ability to break out. And they'll run into contact here, and it's going to slow them down. They're not going to be able to break contact or run away because there's just an element that's going to be here lying in wait, right? And so this platoon gets pretty mopped just because of that. And you can see, like, Al-Zalam coming in from all flanks now, completely surrounds. And it's super cool to see this, like, day 2 of the alpha, seeing the platoon tactics attempt to be used, seeing people stick together, seeing people adapt so quickly to the asymmetrical playstyles. It is difficult, but one thing, at the end of the day, this boiled down to 2 decisions. It boiled down to separation between elements, and it boiled down to the terrain that was utilized, right? That was the 2 major things that cost blue 4 here, is that they jammed it into a death ball, they spread out too much with the other squad way out here on the flank, and they took a gully that exposed them from every angle possible. I'll kind of explain as well why getting surrounded is so bad, or like recognizing that being static is bad, okay? If you are consistently mobile and you maintain the ability to maneuver, the difference is that you always retain the ability to fall back and reconstitute, right? If you get fixed and you remain fixed and you remain in that position and allow yourself to be enveloped or outmaneuvered, you end up getting boxed in, and getting boxed in is bad because it means that you cannot break out to get spawns back. So there's this cat and mouse game that occurs where, like, experienced squad leaders will recognize when they're starting to get boxed in and either start breaking contact. That you have to immediately start breaking contact, right? Or you have to figure out how to fight through the front, because that's another option. That is another option that could have been available if you know, these players were more experienced. And once again, no shame. First day for a lot of people, second day for most. There's a world where if once you get more comfortable with how many players are out there, what a firefight feels like, where contact is coming from, there's 100% a world where you're sitting here as a squad leader and you're thinking, okay, I've got roughly a fire team up here, I've got roughly a fire team here, I've got roughly a fire team here. We've spotted this fire team coming in. If we just commit the entire force into one direction, we can blow through and overrun an element, right? And break out in that manner. Of course, everyone's got the new Bellum shakes. Everyone's, you know, scared in their you know, in their little foxholes, hugging the dirt, right? But eventually, right, with veterancy and experience, you'll understand, like, okay, I feel what's going on around me. I feel the maneuver elements that are happening. Let me try to decide what route offers me the most cover and where I think the enemy is least entrenched, and blow through it with the entire element. Because if there was a squad leader here that was able to rally, right, and could determine, like, okay, you know, this terrain is most favorable. I feel we're getting flanked on the right. We're seeing these guys pull off. I can see these guys coming down on the hill on the left. The entire element, we're going to forward punch through. You can definitely make that an option as well, right? You have full tactical freedom because there is no, like, dedicated objective. Okay. And once again, no shame on anyone. I know a lot of you guys, when you start in these firefights, you guys are shitting yourselves, and that's super cool. That's the experience we want. And you know, there will be a degree of that as long as you play. But you'll start to see opportunities with experience, right? You'll start to see these small windows, and you'll feel the firefight as you play more and more of the game, which is super cool. It gives us a lot of tactical depth. That's what we're really going for here, is to make realistic tactics the meta. And once you do that, oh God, the possibilities are endless, right? Because it's now your brain against the enemy's brain. And that is ever changing, right? It's not locked into, you know, certain values that you're tweaking or certain positions that are hard set by the game. It is who can outsmart who. And that is like the most amazing thing about milsim. All right. So anyways, we're going to go on now. And despite this element getting completely shellacked, this is where the third squad was, right? Like, kind of out in their open. And there is technically another Op4 squad here. So technically there's even match across the board. One squad here, and then the two squad fight on the other side. But bad positioning obviously favored insurgents on that flank. And you can kind of see them. You can kind of see the separation here. This squad can't do anything to support, right? So be cognizant of where the platoon is. Understand where friendly elements are and how fast they can support you, where they can move to support you, and what they can do in case either they or you enter contact, right? Because the first squad or first element that's able to move into position first and assist and make the right call is going to win. And that's what we want. We want the tactics to be the deciding factor in engagements. That this is like what I consider a tactical shooter and what a tactical shooter should have. So let's talk about smaller example now, right? Super cool smaller example of separation and decision making on a squad-on-squad engagement. So we're looking at a head-to-head insurgent versus ranger fight in this forest. By default, rangers are overmatched here, right? They have body armor, they have the two saws, they have the two grenadiers. Insurgents do not have body armor. So as we push into this, and you see, like, all of Blue Four has to walk back from base, walk of shame. We have good separation versus bad separation, right? Insurgents are jammed up on each other. Blue Four is separated. Alpha Fire Team, Bravo Fire Team, right? So what this means is, and you'll see it right here, this is a great example, okay, is Grim is here with this Alpha Fire Team, and I don't think they spot, but we get opened up on, or not we, but he gets opened up on by the insurgent force. Okay, here we go. Suppression starts going out. We start seeing exchange of fire, right? And once again, to break it down to the new players, to tactical games, the exchange of fire here, it's not necessarily people seeing each other. And I know a lot of players who are playing the experience are like, I can't see who's shooting me. Who is shooting me? 90% of the time, no one is seeing anyone. You think you're getting shot at because they see you, but most of the time it's suppression, and that's how suppression works. That's how suppression feels, is how do they see me? I'm getting shot at, they see me. But a lot of the times It's not that. They don't see you. They're just shooting towards you. And so the response from you should be to do the same, because on their side of the equation, they're like, how do they see me? I'm going to get into cover or I'm going to die because he's shooting at me and he sees me. That's suppression, right? That's literally what suppression is. It's not like a gamified, oh, I'm going to jank your camera around or I'm going to blind you mechanic. That's psychological suppression first and foremost. So we can see here, shots go out. Both elements essentially get fixed. This squad even starts to take casualties, right? But what have we noticed? This is a smaller element being decisively engaged by a larger element. They're putting all of their resources here towards this single element. Now, there's a fog of war here, right? Neither team really knows how big the other element is, but from a numbers advantage abstracted, we know that this force is committing more combat power in this particular exchange, right? And what do we see here? We see the detachment or the fire team, the separation, allowing an aggressive maneuver. Right, so I'm not sure what was happening on the comms here, right? But this is where teamwork and communication also matter, right? Because if these guys that are in the platoon on the right flank say, hey, I've got 2 enemy squads here and they're completely surrounding and destroying us, then these 2 squads over here should know, okay, this is a squad head-to-head engagement, right? And that's what communication at the highest level, once you guys get experienced, we'll start to figure out. Once again, everyone's new, totally get it. Not working like that right now, all fine, all good. With time, you'll understand what information is important to what squads, but that's why comms are important, is because like you can get an accurate picture here, or a better picture, I should say, of what the engagement is looking like. So something lets this element know that, okay, we're going to get aggressive. I don't have their comms up, so I don't know exactly what the comms are, but the call is to essentially execute a squad attack. And once again, you're going to see the same things occur: decision-making, commitment, and the separation, okay? So we see how suppression is working. It's fixing these elements in place. They're both engaging at range with the firefight. The blue 4 has to completely reset here. And once again, what do we see here with the blue 4, right? What do we see versus insurgents yet again, right? After the fight, right? Op 4 was like, okay, hey, squad, whatever. This is squad, whatever. We're going to break away from you, right? And even within the squads, hey, fire team here, go here, break away, right? And you start seeing, you can see clear separation. Fire team, fire team, fire team, fire team, right? Maybe some stragglers back here. You can see clear separation of the element, right? Right here as well, clear separation of the element. And then you have an element that's jammed. So we're very, 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 very clearly seeing why you need to maintain some form of separation or dispersion within your squad and within the platoon. So this insurgent element is kind of, you can tell, a little discombobulated, a little less organized, right? They didn't make an immediate decision to push or to pull back or to set anything up. They're just kind of engaging all to the front, right? Kind of just doing their own thing, where this team seems much more coordinated. A decision was made, and despite there being casualties here, there's smoke out to the front, they're suppressing back, they're fixing this enemy. And here comes, once again, we talked about that platoon attack earlier. You can see the setup is very similar with a squad attack, right? Where we have that base of fire suppressing element that's fixing and distracting the Op 4, and that assaulting element coming in near parallel, right? And what these guys can do is, as these guys make the call, hey, Alpha, this is Bravo, we're making our push, these guys can start shifting fire to the right to avoid friendly fire, right? So that's pretty much essentially what you'll see here. It gets a little dangerous, right? This is why we don't want to come in from the rear if we can avoid it. Of course, you never know exactly where Op 4 is. So sometimes this attack line is going to come in too short, too far, right? And they're going to turn in or turn out to where the actual contact is. In this particular case, they have to turn in, and you can see the dangers of coming in pinched is right. Like friendly fire can occur here in this particular situation versus if they're coming in perfect perpendicular. But also you see here like disorganization on the Red 4 side, right? These guys are pushing up in onesies, twosies. It's not like a coordinated effort. And these guys start getting suppressed accurately by this fire team as well. So super cool demonstration of tactics. This Bravo team begins to open up. They take out 1, 2, 3 here. But you can see, and then Blue 4 just sweeps through, right? So Blue 4 continues to sweep through. And then once Blue 4, right, it's kind of ends up, this is a super advanced one, is that it kind of ends up being a ping pong experience, right? Where now that these guys have the attention, this element can push up, right? So these are some very experienced milsimmers, right? To a degree, it appears, that understand how this plays out in a tactical sense, right? So they fix. These guys come in, these guys are now engaged, pressure lefts up here, and you can see the decision making, right? Quick decision making. They decide to make the push on their end, right? And so now you see the right flank here start getting aggressive and make their push in. And these guys are like, oh, contact front. Oh, shoot, we're getting flanked. Look to the flank. Oh, shoot. Like now these guys are coming in and they're coming in online. Like super cool stuff. Love it. Amazing. Right. And they just coming in online. Once again, why do we use a line versus a file? Blah, blah, blah. This is all stuff that you'll naturally feel. It's because everyone can shoot to the front. It just makes sense. Rather than if they're Congo lined. Right. And this is a super clean sweep. So separation, very important. Decision making, very important. Those two things are important. Terrain analysis. Don't just shift W into the objective. Observe where you're going. Look at what's happening, because this is the same round later on. What has happened yet again? So we did not learn from the first. We did not learn from the first engagement. This is the second platoon engagement of the round. What did we learn? Doesn't look like we learned much. We're all jammed up on top of each other in the low ground, surrounded by high ground to the right, high ground to the front, high ground to the left. What happens? You get reasonably punished for it, right? Whole element in the low ground, insurgent fire teams working as fire teams, suppressing and fixing the element in the gully. And then, as you can expect, OP4 once again, separation, right? Here we see a little separation, right? We see a little bit of it, but they're all technically all still in the gully. This turns into a nightmare. So you can see OP4, they're going to flank. Watch the flank, hold flank security. It will come, I guarantee you. I guarantee you OP4 will try something from the side. But yeah, so you see a pinch in from this side. Right, so you have the front, pinch in from the right, pinch in from the left. And it all makes sense if you look at the map and you think, okay, if we're going to get hit here, where's it going to come from? Oh, we get hit from the front. Well, there's a tree line to the rear they can use. And there's a tree line on the left that they're going to use. And then, once again, we just completely enveloped. And this is bad news bears. So low ground is dangerous. It's good to keep you obscured from the enemy when making certain maneuvers. But if you get caught in a gunfight in a gully, it is not fun. Because now all these insurgents are just lining these guys in the ground. Yeah. So these are things that we observed that people just need to learn, right? Because you've never before, unless you've been in some hardcore milsim thing, have had a place where you can utilize actual tactics, or tactics actually matter the way that they authentically do. This is a great example and little chat on separation, analysis, and decision making. You can see OP4, who the first mover advantage of like who's making decision of which way to go or which place to flank. It's massive, right? It will that kind of teamwork is literally critical to the experience.